Just a few days ago, Vladimir Putin, the dictator of Russia, was quoted as musing that liberalism was dead, that it had run its course. I think he is onto something. One of the basics of liberal thought was to break down barriers which had prevented people from prospering, from learning, from being free of the oppressive elites, so that they could be the best they could be. But now our liberties, gained through traditional liberal policies, are eroding. For example, now we have many stories of bright students having their admission to university withdrawn after some busybody saw an old and dated posting on social media that was not proper in anyone's judgment, even after the student had matured and apologized for being so immature and stupid to utter whatever phrase they did in the first place. No question, even young kids should learn that once mentioned, even the stupidest things are recorded somewhere. But should not the university bosses grow up and be less afraid of the intolerant mob? Some political leaders are now talking about creating governments that have some sort of regulating bureaucratic snoops to ensure that people do not say inciting and incendiary things on the internet. Governments that once fought for freedom are now instead using the power that people gave them to try to control the people. So now, the task for smart, responsible people is to fight against repressive regulation, to fight against those politicians and university and government bureaucrats who would bind us in the name of some mistaken view of civility. The end of liberalism does not mean that we should stop efforts to provide health and education for every citizen. That should remain one of the goals of any government of any sort. But now, instead of creating freedom, liberals are stomping out freedom in the name of freedom. The fight for freedom of speech and opportunity should be ramped up because at the moment, we are losing that very battle. So that dastardly Putin is correct. Liberalism as a guiding political philosophy has been bent, twisted, so far out of shape that it is unrecognizable. It has ceased to exist to achieve what were its goals. But Putin does not have a better answer. I don't see anyone moving to Russia for a better life. We in the Western world are in the process of creating a new system. We just do not know what it is yet, and whether it is better than the one we had. But returning to yesteryear is not an option. The past cannot be recreated, but we can learn from the past. We need to examine what was important, such as freedom of thought and speech, and freedom of economic creativity, and work on ways to foster that, instead of tramping down on everything that is different, or new, or that disturbs the elites. Better to be marching at the start of the parade of change, as opposed to being dragged along by the collar. Politicians of all stripes were outraged at Putin's observation. They're outraged by the very smallest things these days. But Putin has done the Western world a big favor. He was right, and we should get at it.